Welcome to the House of Truth. Today we're continuing our last segment on the Lamb of God on the Lamb of God series that began with the origin of the Lamb even before he's born, and we covered all the way through there in the spring, all the way up through Shavuot when he poured out the Spirit. The Lamb's the one that baptized people in the Spirit on Shavuot, and even looked at what he's been doing in heaven since then. Now, in our last segment here, we've been covering what the fall holidays tells about what the lamb will be doing in the future. And last time we looked at the lamb, the reign of the lamb, to see what life would be like during the reign of the lamb in Israel in particular. Today, we're going to talk about how he's going to roll that once he has everything established in Israel and that good life, that life of peace and and prosperity and health. I was going to roll his kingdom out from Israel all until it covers the whole world. And what I call the conquest of the Lamb. Because his kingdom, you'll see, it's a long process of rolling it out little by little till he covers the entire world, the entire earth. Well, here and we're given we're given the premise of how this is going to work based on here in Genesis 27, verse 28 and 29. Therefore, God give you the dew of heaven, and the fatness of earth, and the corn and of play of corn and wine. They will serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be you Lord over your brother, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone that curses you, and blessed be he that blesses you. This is Isaac blessing Jacob, and this is the foundation of how this rolling out of his kingdom is based on. So it began that we talked about last time of Israel, of having plenty of food and everything they need, and total peace and security. No one can touch them. Then the next phase is to let people serve them and bow down to them. And it starts with the brethren of Israel, the people in the Middle East, which of course include the sons of Ishmael, and Ishmael, the sons of Lot, who Abraham gave part of it to gave Lot part of the promised land, of the land promised to him, not the land promised to Jacob, which is much smaller, the land promised to him, which is much larger. He gave a portion of Lot and Lot's children, Ammon and Moab. And and it also includes the sons of Esau, Edom, and it's going to extend in Ishmael, as I mentioned. It's going to extend there. Next is I want you to notice, and they're going to bow down to him. His mother's sons would be referring to Edom in particular. Esau's the sons of Esau in particular. But as far and now the entire world's included. Cursed be those that curse you, and blessed be those that bless you. What's going to happen to all, every nation is based entirely on on how they respond to Israel as this rollout occurs, and what they've done in the past as well. So we see some more details about this here in Isaiah 14, verse 1 and 2. The Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and shall take them and shall take and they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and shall rule over their oppressors. Okay, so notice there's two groups here. Those that are joined with them and cleave to the house of Israel. He will not he will not have the ethnic group of Israel. People, and when you see, remember, what you're circumcised, keep all your count as if you were native born. So this time, Gentiles, they've joined with them. They've cleaved. They have blessed Israel. Now, the people, and they're going to bring them to their place. And what does it mean by they're going to bring them to their place? They're going to be given, we're told, a portion, a piece of land in Israel that's equal size with that of the people of Israel. So they're certainly, in that sense, kind of the part of the people of Israel, but not necessarily the ethnic group of Israel. But they're living in the land of Israel, and they're given these an equal portion. They're going to have a different job than than the those who are counted as part of the tribe. In fact, they'll be counted as part of the tribe for that purpose as well. But their job is going to be take care of, I showed this in the past, the land and so on and so forth. So those who have marked themselves as that special ethnic group by keeping all the whole law, the whole Torah, as Shaul, the Apostle Paul says, can do the job the Lord's given them. They won't be able to spend time taking care of their farms and stuff. These people are going to take care of their farms and stuff, so they can focus on some other jobs. And we're going to look at one of those. We'll see one of those jobs later today. The Lord's going to have for them. Now, that's the group that's blessed Israel and is being blessed. Now, there's another group that's cursed Israel is going to have cursed. And that's them, and that's those who took them, whose captives they were, who oppressed them, and they oppressed them. Well, they're also going to live in Israel, but there's no mention of them being given any kind of property like here. They're going to be brought in. They're going to be brought in basically as slave labor. They're and they're going to rule over. They're going to rule over them, because again the word of the Lord was that cursed Israel is going to be cursed. So that's what's going to happen to those. So that's, again, we see that effect of these two groups. Now, in Zechariah 2:18 through 13, we get some more insight into how all these things are going to work. For thus says the Lord of hosts, after the glory has he sent me to the nations which spoiled you. For it touches the eye of the apple of his eye. For behold, I'll shake my hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants. And you shall know the Lord of hosts has sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come and dwell in the midst of you, says the Lord. Many nations shall be joined to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people. And I will dwell in the midst of you, and you shall know the Lord of hosts has sent me unto you. And the Lord shall inherit Judah's portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Israel again. Be silent, O flesh, for the Lord, before the Lord, he is raised up out of his holy habitation. Okay, so I want you to notice here. Again, we see the same pattern. He sent me to the nations which spoiled you. All right, this is Zechariah referring to. All right, after the glory, he sent the nations that spoiled you. Now he touched the apple of his eye. Now, expression touch the apple of someone's eye is used in America, and it came brought from over from England, like a child that's favored, that the parents especially adore. But that's not what this means here at all. God, he sends him the door. He doesn't regard any man. He is not a respecter of persons. He doesn't have any favorites just based on because he just thinks he made that one's more beautiful or what or just for whatever reason. It's entire he treats everyone according to how they treat him. This is literally the pupil of his eye. And the pupil, so if you poke Israel, you're poking God in the eye. Because Israel is his mechanism for rolling out these blessings we saw that began in the land of Israel to the whole world. So the Lord's going to shake them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants. Okay, even will do this. They have people that are their employees or perhaps slaves. Depending on the company, on the people, on the situation, the place. And God's gonna destroy, just like he said, just like we saw he did with Israel, those who are oppressing among those and those who are causing others to sin against the Lord. And he's going to give their stuff to their servants who are to the meek and humble of the land, just like he did in the land of Israel. Well, he's going to dwell in them. And again, we looked at that last time. We're talking about his reign here. What since he's been crowned, he's reigning. He's touching them through. He's joining them through Messiah. He's dwelling in his Messiah in Zion, the capital. Now the nations, those many nations will be joined that day, and shall be my people. It's not just Israel. It's going to be the people of God. It's going to be the people of God. Many nations are going to be that. And you can kind of think of this in a way of the United States has one place, District of Columbia, where the capital's at. And has all these states, but it didn't start that way. It grew and territories had to actually apply to become states and so on and so forth. And they joined themselves. Well, imagine if the United States had only started out just as DC. It's probably, and then Maryland joined it, and then Maryland joined it, and then Virginia and Delaware and so on and so forth, and kept rolling out. Okay, so now they're joined to the president of the United States. Let's say pretending he was a king, though. They're joined to him, and they're part of that country. Well, that's the same thing. These nations are going to be joined to the Lord. They're going to be part of his kingdom. They're going to be part of his people. That means they're not going to be that. They're going to be part of the ethnic group that rules over all the other ethnic groups, but they are going to be part of his kingdom. And notice, I will dwell in the midst of you. He's talking to Zion, the daughter of Zion. He's talking to Jerusalem in particular. He inherit his portion in the Holy Land, Judah. Well, why does he say this about Judah? Because Judah, let me give you a little map here. I think that'll make things a lot easier. You see, Judah, out of Judah's inheritance, a portion is going to be given. A portion is going to be given to the Lord, the oblation. And these are the branches of the prince on each side of this holy oblation in the middle. And here's the sanctuary where the river we talked about last time is going to flow out of, and so on and so forth. So this is why. So this is actually part of the land of Judah that was again given as an offering to the Lord. And here's where the Levites will be, where you see that elder. It won't be scattered anymore all over Israel. They're going to be inside this. So this is why it says in Judah. Okay. Well, that's why it says Judah is his portion. He's going to choose Jerusalem again. So the Lord has raised up out of his holy habitation, all flesh be silent before him. Not just Israel, all flesh, all of humanity. When they're talking about being silent, it's like he assembles and they all got to be quiet until he speaks. Until he speaks. And like when people are giving a speech, everyone has to be quiet while they're speaking. Then they can maybe start talking or whatever. and that, to show that recognizing submission, that you're in charge and we're listening. Okay, so that's going to happen with all flesh, not just Israel. We looked at before, it starts with Israel, but doesn't end with Israel. It's going to roll out till it covers the whole earth, and we'll show that. And we'll show exactly how the rollout occurs. Now we go to Exodus 15, verse 13 through 18. We're going to look at this next aspect about this, about this rollout that we see here. Again, Exodus 15, verses 13 and 18. And this is the song of Moses and Miriam after the Egyptians were drowned in the sea, just to give you a little context. You in your mercy have led forth the people which you have redeemed. You have guided them in your strength into your holy habitation. The evil shall hear and be afraid. Sorrow shall take hold of the inhabitants of Palestina. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed. The mighty men of Moab trembling shall take hold of them. All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Fear and dread shall fall upon them. By the greatness of your arm, they shall be as still as stone. Till your people pass over, O Lord, your people pass over which you have purchased. You shall bring them and plant them in the mountains of your inheritance in the place, O Lord, which was made them to dwell in the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. The Lord shall reign forever. Okay. Now, this happened in part during the time of Joshua and the judges we saw, and even later. But Israel never really does all this. Okay. Now, if they had followed the plan if they'd followed the commandments of God, it would have happened then, but it didn't. And they were planted, but only temporarily. They were uprooted later, scattered, etc. And the Lord, and notice the reference: the Lord reigns forever and ever. The Lord in the place in His sanctuary. Okay, okay. So there indicates a permanency that Israel has never experienced, but has foreshadowed by some of the things that came upon during those days. All you have is a Canaan never melted away. We end it with they made peace with the Amorites, which is one of the Canaanite ethnic groups that came out of the Canaanites as well. They made peace with them. At the end of during the days of Samuel, I believe it was right before King Saul became king. Okay, so and the Palestinians are there also. Now the Palestinians we left off. We're still oppressing them in the days of Samuel. There's still a problem, through all the days of Saul. We saw he fights against them as well. So they never really totally got rid of got the Palestinians under control. And today we still see them, in Gaza. They do it, there's terrible things. October 7th forward, this 2-year war, and they're probably not, and I doubt they're done yet. So the situation is going to occur though when the Lord's reigning there, and His reign's never going to end. The reign of David, the reign of Saul, all came to an end. They died, but this time when the Lord's reigning through Messiah, who will not die. Now let's go read in Psalms 96, verse 10 through 13, about some of these things that can occur during that time. Say among the heathen, the Lord reigns. Oh wait, I want to bring out to your attention. I'm sorry. Edom is the brother of Jacob. He's going to be ruled over by Israel. Moab, again, Lot. Remember, so it's starting here in the Promised Land, and those areas, and Palestine is actually in the Promised Land, and the Canaanites were in their land of Canaan, but they would be displaced, pushed out, or really they could be, as a few did, like Gibeonites. They could join themselves to Israel. If they don't, they could join themselves by coming to total surrender. Make us slaves. We'll carry your wood and water, whatever. They could leave the land, or they'd be destroyed. So, and they never were melted away completely, as I mentioned. So it's began the land of Israel and the land right next to Israel to the east, down here at Edom and Moab. Now back to Psalms 96, verse 10 through 13. We're going to read. We're going to read. Get some more insight into this works, and this work. And it's not that's not just including them. It's just starting with them. Say among the heathen. Say among the heathen that the Lord reigns. Lord, the world shall also be established that shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously. The heavens rejoice, and let the earth be glad. Let the sea roar in the fullness thereof. Let the field be joyful, and all is therein. Then shall all the trees of the wood rejoice. Behold, the Lord, he comes, for he comes to judge the earth. He shall judge the earth with righteousness, and the people with his truth. You know, it's among the heathen, all the heathen. The world whom it shall not be moved. Remember, we talked about how the ethnic group of Israel and those that lived among them are going to have this land that's never inside there. The tribes are going to have their boundaries that they'll never change. Inside there, inside a tribe, let's say here the tribe of Reuben, there'll be clans. They'll have those. The extended families, like say all of them with the same last name. Let's say Smith's not a particularly Jewish name, but we'll just say all the Smiths, for example. Maybe all live right here, and inside there, down to the individual family. And like, let's say me and my brothers were there. Our properties all be next to each other. Next to that would be maybe my dad's brother's sons, and so on and so forth. And it's never gonna be moved. There's never gonna be no real estate business to speak of in these properties. People they can't sell them. They lose them through debt. They get them back at the year of Jubilee. It's, the best you can rent someone else's property, but it's never going to be moved. Well, that's going to happen not just in Israel. That's going to be rode out to the entire world. And so, like all the Almadadi, which are native North and South America, who were here before European contact, and brought in. Okay, they're all going to have their land together. Inside there, all the tribes are going to have their land together. Inside there, the clans in each tribe, and so on and so forth. And so the tribe will never lose its land. Say the Navajo, for example. The Navajo's land and their land. Notice all their land. There's not going to be this process we saw. It's going to happen in Israel with the desert becoming like the Garden of Eden and so on and so forth, are going to happen. Is going to happen everywhere as this kingdom expands and rolls out. Notice the fields are going to be joyful, just like they were in Israel. We saw. This is talking about the whole earth, the whole world, not just talking about Israel at this point. We saw the same expression with the trees of the wood rejoicing, or the forest, we might say, today, rejoicing. This expansion of everything blooming. So no one's going to be given a piece of land that it just can't produce what you need to live on, and just a very low value. It may be low value when they may already be there, and it may be low value, but after they come before the Lord, after He's judging them, and He stops them from oppressing them. No one can take their land. Nobody can oppress them. He's going to restore their land as well, and they're going to He's going to do what's right by everyone, and they're going to and the people with His truth. They're going to learn the truth about everything and how to walk in it when He's reigning again. So He's going to do among the Gentiles. Remember, the word heathen is just goy, could mean Gentile, could mean nations, ethnic groups. Well, He does with Israel. Israel, as I've said before, is kind of like that model home. When you go look in some place, it's got a bunch of homes. They let you look at one to get an idea of how the rest are. So He's going to replicate that with every ethnic group. Again, each of those 70 root nations of Israel, we find in Genesis, the tribes inside of them, and so on and so forth, all the way down to the individual family. Now, in Revelations 20, verse 1 through 6, we see another aspect about this kingdom, about this kingdom being rode out. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him. He should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years be fulfilled, and after that it must be loosed for a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of them were beheaded for the witness of Christ, of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, near his image, near had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. They lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again till the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that has the part of the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. They shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Okay. Okay, so what we see here again. Now, notice the timing of all this. This angel's coming down, Satan's put in there, and this is after the Antichrist was defeated, that we saw with the wrath of the Lamb, destroys the Antichrist. There's no battle like you may fight between him and Satan, him a sword, and or the Antichrist having whatever. The Antichrist arrogant, we saw previous year, but once he realizes he has no chance of fighting, he tries to run away to his stronghold, but he's just destroyed by the word. And then he's thrown in, and him and the false prophet are thrown into the lake of fire. Well, Satan. So this is after the tribulation's over. Now notice the souls of them that were killed during the tribulation are not resurrected until after the tribulation's over. They were not part of those saints who came with him that we saw at the end of the tribulation. But now they're resurrected, and that's the end of the first resurrection. First resurrection is not just them. The first to be resurrected was Messiah himself. And then we're told in Matthew 28, some of the saints around Jerusalem were resurrected and witnessed about him. And then we're told, and then the dead in Christ will rise. Number 3, those who are alive will be raptured and caught up with him, snatched away, arpozoed, literally snatched out of the way of danger, to be with him. That's number 4. The 144,000 are on earth, and you see them standing in heaven. They were obviously given because flesh and blood cannot, were brought up there. And then the 2 witnesses finally are brought there. It's number 6. These are number 7, completing the first resurrection. So there's no second death on those in the first resurrection. But there's no one else can be given these bodies like Messiah has today that don't have blood. They're flesh and bone, but they're given life by the Spirit, not by blood. So there'll be no more bodies like that, similar to what angels have after that. So the resurrected saints completes the resurrection of the saints. And notice, those who've been resurrected in this first resurrection will be priests of God in Christ and reign with him 1,000 years. So there's 1,000 years again. In fact, there's a whole teaching called amillennialism, which literally means no millennial reign. Yeah, we see but literally it says 6 times in Revelation 20 that he's going to reign 1,000 years. You know, so and remember the warning of Paul: anyone that will not consent to the words of Jesus is proud and knows nothing, and you're to withdraw from them. They're a false teacher. Because right here we plainly see this. So they're going to reign with him as well. So this brings in those in the resurrected bodies. Now I'm not going to have time to go into it this year. 23% of the Bible is unfulfilled prophecy. I can't possibly cover all of it, in a few short sessions like this. But they're going to have a place in reigning also and acting as priest. There's sort of some natural people doing that and some supernatural people doing the same thing. And we'll look, perhaps someday we'll look at the details of how how that's divvied up. But for right now, just know that. Now let's continue on Exodus. So now we got everyone included, all the saints, all those who are resurrected, all the people who survived the tribulation, and Israel and all the other ethnic groups, and the children are born after that as well, to those natural people. Now in Exodus 19, verse 5 through 8, we read the following. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a particular treasure unto me above all the people. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you shall speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid them before their faces all these words the Lord commanded him. The people answered together and said, all the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. Okay, so now here he's talking to natural Israel, and this is the covenant that was offered them, which when they accept the new covenant, when the Messiah when the King and the Lamb is crowned, will include this. And we're going to people with natural bodies, as we talked about, have to go to that plant of renown and get the leaves and be renewed, and basically be a healthy like they have healthy 20-year-old bodies. They're for this whole 1,000-year period. So a holy nation, but they're going to be a king of priests and a holy nation. So they're going to be these natural people are going to be doing this, is what he's told. That's part of this covenant the Messiah is going to fulfill. A peculiar treasure of all people. This ethnic group, it's above all their people. And why? Because they're holy. They're going to have a level of holiness requirements the Gentile nations won't have on them. Gentile nations will still go around eating pork or whatever, and can wear mixed fabrics and so on and so forth. And they won't be able to do it. And no one in Israel will be doing those things. They'll be set apart. These commandments of custom is what sets them apart as this holy nation. We see that pattern over and over again. God requires of more of those that are higher up in his kingdom, and he always has them do something to set them apart from everyone else. So they're going to be doing this. They're going to be kingdom of priests to the Gentiles. Well, I showed in previous years, the Levites will be priests. The Levites and the priests will fulfill that role to the people of Israel. But the men of Israel are going to fulfill that role and fill that role. And there's a kingdom also. The whole kingdom is going to be priests, an holy nation. The holy nation to show the Gentiles how to live, how to keep the commandments of God as he intended. Because when they start doing that themselves. So that's what they agreed to. That's what they agreed to with the Lord. Now at this point, they hadn't even heard the conditions. But they were given all the conditions twice. They were given all the conditions twice after this. And they agreed both times. That really confirmed it by 2 or 3 witnesses. So now, but read what Peter says here in 1 Peter. Cephas, if you want to go with Aramaic, Shimon, his Hebrew name, or Simeon, sort of an anglicized version of Shimon. Anyways, However you like, read what it says here in 1 Peter 2, chapter 2, verses 9 and 10. But you are a chosen generation, a holy priesthood, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. For you should show forth that you should show forth the praise of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God, which not obtained mercy, but have now obtained mercy. Okay. Notice the same thing here. Chosen generation. What? No, that's different. Why say a chosen generation? Because all the believers, are another place scripture, which I'm not showing this year, are called are called the generation of Messiah, as if they were all his children. You know, and expression is common in the Bible. Like it'll say Jesus, the son of Abraham. Well, there's a bunch of people between them. Okay. But in this case, the Father, the only begotten of the Father, and they're the Son or descendant through Messiah. They're counted as him. So they're this chosen generation. Thus, they're also a royal priesthood, just like Israel, a holy nation, just like Israel, pure people. And notice, and what's their job? What's their job? Show forth the praise of him who did what? Called him out of darkness into his marvelous light. This is my life verse. I was in such darkness until Messiah called me. And now he called me. He called me through the preaching of the word. Many are called, but few are chosen. The ones that are chosen are the ones that respond to the call. When they preached that word, he was calling everyone. But those who accept it, but those who answer the call, because he's calling them out of darkness, and you can't step into the marvelous light now of the darkness unless you answer the call. So that's what they've done. And notice who these people are. They're mostly Gentiles. Because now we know this, in time we're not a people, we're now the people of God. Shaul, the Apostle Paul, used that same expression, quoting from the prophets. I want to say Micah, but I think they're different. One's Hosea. The second one's Hosea, however you want to say it. Anyway, Hosea would be correct. Anyway, so here we go. So not obtained mercy. They were not a people, because there was no people called Christians back in the day, but now the people of God. And now they had not obtained mercy. They had know anything about the covenants, anything. But now they've obtained mercy by believing the gospel. Now, someone might say, well, I don't think that's right. I think it's referring to the people of Israel, even though he's quoting this passage. Shaul also quoted from the prophets that said that was about the Gentiles. Well, we're going to get final clarification on this, and without room for a reasonable doubt, here in Revelation 5, verses 9, 10. And they sang a new song, saying, you are worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For you are slain, and have redeemed us to God by your blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation, and has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. Okay, this is the resurrected saints singing this song. Okay, and notice they're of every kindred. And kindred would be like an extended family, as I was mentioning earlier. So I have a clan, okay? Every language, people, and people, an ethnic group, but people may have multiple ethnic groups in it, like the United States has multiple ethnic groups in it. There's way many, but we're still kind of the people of the United States. So this is definitely talking about Gentiles, but also Jews, because every nation would include Jews, every people would include the people of Israel, every tongue would include Hebrew, every kindred would include the family, the physical descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But it's including them, but not limited to them. And again, so all the resurrected we see once again are going to be priests and kings and priests, and they're going to reign on the earth, that royal priesthood. like Melchizedek, who was both the king and the priest. And they're going to reign on the earth. So they're going to help in this rollout. And it's very important because every culture, every one of these is going to know how to reach the people of their own culture. They're going to know the language, so on and so forth. And same with Israel, that was scattered and brought back. As I mentioned before, we'll be able to reach their own, the cultures of the place they went to. Well, now we're going to continue on and look at this rollout here. And I guess we're going to bring that up right here as well. See that once again here in Numbers 24, verse 7 and 9. He shall pour out the buckets of his water, the water of his bucket, water out of his buckets. And his seed shall be in many waters. And his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brought him forth out of Egypt. He has, as it were, the strength of a unicorn. He shall eat up the nation of his enemies and shall break their bones, and pierce them through with his arrows. He crouched, he lay as a lion, as a great lion. Who shall stir him up? Blessed is he that blesses you, and cursed is he that curses you. Okay, this is Balaam again, real prophet of God, who turned away from the way of righteousness before it turned. The Spirit of God speaking through him about Israel. And it was his king to be higher than Agag. Agag was the king of the Amalekites. Was a wicked nation. But his king's going to be much higher than that. And, the nations around there, basically, the Amalekites were kind of nomadic raiders, but no one really, except for the Israelites' times, really ever seemed to fight with them because they were basically afraid of them. But his kingdom's going to be exalted. Yeah, it's going to be larger. It's going to be larger than any kingdom's ever been. It's going to be longer enduring. It's going to be greater in every way. Now, the unicorn there again, it's King James. That's in King James times, what they call a rhinoceros. Okay, the strength of a rhinoceros, a one-horned rhinoceros, which I think is the wide-lipped rhinoceros, sometimes mistakenly called the white rhinoceros, although the word literally meant wide-lipped. Anyways, so well, that's the one horn. I think the two horns, the one over in Asia, over in India. But anyways, he's the strength of a rhinoceros, and rhinos can take on elephants, which are much bigger. They're just ridiculously strong. And he's just going to totally destroy the nation of his enemies. And he's going to be like a lion, and don't mess with him. But it's not talking about just Jacob here. It's talking about particularly the king of Israel, who's the king of kings, not just of Israel, but it's going to become king of the world. And if you bless him, he's going to bless you, the king. And if you curse him, you're going to be cursed. Again, it's particularly talking about the king. Remember, all of Israel is in obedience to the king at this point. They're in obedience to God. They have their spirit of God in them through the renewed covenant and obeying all the commandments of God. So let's read about some more about this king here in Psalms 2, verses 6 through 12. Yet I've set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I'll declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, you are my son, this day I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the heathen, that's literally the Gentiles, for your inheritance, and the othermost parts of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them in pieces with a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O kings, be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are they that put their trust in him. Okay, again, two groups. Blessed are they that put their trust in him. Those that bless him are going to be blessed. Now, those who curse him by refusing to obey him are going to be cursed. And this king is, of course, Messiah. And Shaul quotes us about, "You are my son, this day I've begotten you," about his death, burial, and resurrection. He learned obedience. That's the primary feature of a son in the Bible, is being obedient. So all there is to it is the core. It's the core, and everything else is built around. And he obeyed him even to the death of a cross. That's what happened. As a result of that, his reward that obedience is giving him all the nations for the Gentiles for his inheritance. Not just his work. In other place it says was too great on the cross to inherit. It had been too just for inheriting Israel would have been way too small of a reward. He's given them all the nations because the Lord made them all, and picked one to work through, set one above the others to rule, just like DC rules 50 states. Set one smaller one to rule over all the others as a mechanism to bring about his will. So this king's going to do this, but he's not stopping at Israel. To the furthest parts of the earth for your possession. And the furthest place from Jerusalem today is Raphaidi, down in the South Pacific. Okay. And I met a Jewish man from there, met him there. And his house was literally literally the first inhabited point on earth from Jerusalem. There's a kind of a peninsula that goes out there. It goes out, I guess, on the southeast side of it. And his house was the last house on that peninsula. And it's the first place. It was literally the uttermost part of the earth. All of it is going to be Israel's going to be gathered, but all of it's going to be his possession. Now he's going to break them with a rod of iron, dash them with a piece of like a potter's wheel. Well, these ethnic groups. Now, there's two sides to that. One is, yeah, if they come against him, he's going to crush them and destroy them. Okay, but the other is this: he's going to break large nations that are maybe made out of multiple ethnic groups into smaller nations. As I mentioned, the Almadadi. Well, among them, there's going to be these. There's an example. The Almadad means beyond what's known. It's again the people in North and South America who were beyond what was known until really there were several encounters before Columbus, but Columbus is the one that was the day worlds collided on October 13th, 1492, which is why people are commemorating Columbus Day, which happens to be today. Well, he's going to break them so that the United States ain't going to be a United States anymore. That he's going to divide that land up however he wants to among them, and all nations are going to be based on ethnic group with some of their own ethnicity at the top. Not everyone necessarily in the government, but everyone, the one at the top, just as he did with Israel, because Israel's that model nation. So that's the other aspect. Okay. Therefore, these kings and these rulers, judges of the rulers, and they're a little different than the king. Maybe more dealing with internal affairs to some degree, and the king more with the external affairs or ruling the land. The judges enforcing those rules would be probably a better way to look at it. Through the court system. To not go against the king. You don't want to be cursed. You want to submit to him and be blessed. And you're only going to do that if you put your trust in him. Now, in Revelation 2, 26 to 29, we read again that it's not just Messiah who's going to have this absolute authority of what he says goes. Again, Revelation 2, verse 26 through 29. And he that overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I'll give the power over nations. I'll give power over the nations. He shall rule them with a rod of iron, As a vessels of potter shall he be broken to shivers, as I received of my Father. I'll give him the morning star. He has an ear to hear. Let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. Okay, here it is brought out. They're going to be broken to shivers. He's going to rule them with a rod of iron. But he's got the believers when they reign are going to, first of all, they're going to do what he says. They're not going to be off doing their own thing. Okay. And, they're going to be his. They're going to be hit. They're going to do what he does in Israel and for the world. Because later there's going to be another guy's going to be king. Is going to be David will be king over Israel. He'll be above him. And the apostles over the 12 tribes were told this. We don't have to speculate on this. But that same thing that he's doing first in Israel and then later as he's becoming ruler over these, as his kingdom expands, they're going to be doing the same thing in each of these places, these Gentile believers. He's going to pick among them and put them as king over, maybe one over the whole thing. And often in cities, because what he said in those parables and explained them was he literally meant that. This one's king over one city. This one who shows up more faithful is king over 10. Okay. You have little city states everywhere. And that's part of this breaking them so they don't have, you can't, they're one of these giant nations like the United States and, in the current Russia and the former Soviet Union. That's going to have these giant powers to be able to be, there's going to be all these groups clumped together and thereby can be oppressed with other nations. You give him the morning star, as a figure of his speech, remember he himself's the morning star, but it means they're giving him the same authority he has and a scepter like he has. Okay, and notice this is to the churches, not just to this one church, to all the churches throughout all the ages, all the congregations. So so that's what, again, we're talking about the people today, the believers today, are going to have a part in this, Jew or Gentile. And your part's determined by your faithfulness to what he told you to do. And by, you're and if you're going to be great in his kingdom, you're servant of all, it says in Mark. But also in Matthew, it says, those who keep the least commandments and keep the least commandments, each others do them. That is to say, these commandments, a custom, which is made very plain in Acts 21, will be greater in the kingdom over those. So they're going to be part of that ethnic. They're going to be part of that kingdom of Israel, and the others will be part of those other kingdoms. But still, you're going to be king over something, ruling over something. As he rows this thing out. Now, let's continue on in Numbers 24, verse 17 through 19. I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that has dominion, and shall destroy him that remains of the city. Okay, again, this is, Balaam's speech here, Spirit of God speaking through him about Israel. The star out of Jacob is the Messiah. That scepter is about Messiah ruling. And now he's going to smite the corners of Moab, destroy all the children of Sheth. And that's referring to those basically just sold out to evil in that area. Edom's going to be a possession. We'll look at how that plays out in a little more detail. So the Moab thing. Seir is the capital of Edom. To be a possession for his enemies, the enemies of Edom, not for the enemies of Messiah, okay? And Israel shall do valiantly. Notice Israel, I mentioned those people, they got those strangers They've given a piece of land that belongs to them. It's theirs, but they're also taking care of the farms and stuff for them because they're going to be sent out as an army, we can see. Besides being priests and kings, kings go to war. We see over and over again in scripture. And they're going to do, and they are likewise going to do, they're going to do likewise as Messiah commands. And again, starts after Israel, starts close to home to the places just east of Israel. And he's going to have the men, he's going to destroy the remains of the city. That city would be Seir in this context, okay? You know, there's gonna be no, he's gonna leave no survivors in Seir because of this evil, they're gonna gather there, resist him. Well, we'll see why in more detail, but tells the Seir is gonna resist him and be totally destroyed. Now, in Isaiah 11, verse 13 through 14, read the following. There are aspects about what's going to happen. We have this army of Israel and what they're going to be doing. You know, the future IDF, if you will. Well, it's not really it's not a DF anymore. They're not defending nothing. They're under attack. But anyways, the army of Israel. What we're going to see them we're going to see them working next here in Isaiah 11 again verse 13 through 14. The envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehudah, and Yehudah shall not vex Ephraim. And they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines towards the west. They shall spoil them to the east together. They shall lay their hands upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. Okay. These three, Edom, Moab, and Ammon today, is the country of Jordan, roughly, basically. And the fact the capital of Jordan is Ammon, named after Lot's son through his daughters. Okay, so first of all, we see what already happened. There's gonna be no more of this nonsense. Ephraim was where Samaria was, the northern kingdom, Judah, and Ephraim was always envious of Judah because Judah had the temple in it, and that's really what led to Ephraim's evilness. Later was they were worried about people going down to Judah, and then turning against the king in Ephraim. So they had this envy because they didn't have the temple. Now the adversaries of Judah, it's referring here to are the troublemakers, not necessarily Ephraim, but the ones who inside Judah also are causing these. And these two fought together all the time through the books of Kings and once the kingdom divided, they went to war with each other often. Well, Messiah's going to put an end to that. Okay, they're going to start living like brothers. And I think a map here is appropriate. We kind of brought this out before. But here, this shows it pretty well. Again, this is about the size of the state of Kentucky, roughly. If you sit there and calculate it. So here we are. Here we are. Now, here's the ones that are Ephraim. Some of these were Ephraim, these 10 tribes that made the northern kingdom. Well, they're here together. They're here together. And Reuben was also. And notice this area over here will not be there. It used to be Moab and Ammon. And Lord, they wouldn't give them a sort of foot breadth. They had it as part of the Eastern Promised Land because they took it from the Amorites who had taken it from him. But in the future, they're not having any of it. Okay, when Messiah reigns. Judah, and this holy district was cut out of Judah. All right, now here's Judah. The tribes that joined him were Simeon and Benjamin. Okay, when the kingdoms divided, these are the two tribes. Wouldn't count the king's own tribe. Okay, we're counting the children of Joseph as two different here. Now, and Levi is living here was scattered among them, and Simeon was scattered inside of Judah. But notice here the rest of Ephraim of Ephraim, the northern kingdom, is down here in the south, in the very southernmost part. They that saw desert, but it won't be desert, as we showed. All those little wadis are going to be turned, or going to be rivers. There have water flowing everywhere, be green and fertile and beautiful. As he rows it out, everywhere accepts his, everywhere where he accepts his rain is going to become the same way. So no one's going to have a piece of land that's worthless, or can't hardly grow any food on it or whatever. They just won't exist. For those that come under his reign. So there's no more envy between them. They're all living together. How pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity. And that's what they'll be doing. And when they're doing this, they're going to work together to fly upon the Philistines, upon the shoulders of the Philistines. And I've shown this before. The Philistines, it says the ones who won't submit to the fire are going to be destroyed, just like it happened with it when he did with Israel. And the ones who will are going to be before the God of Israel, and they're going to be even given a place in the government. Okay, they're going to be given land like those other strangers, and they're not going to be pushed out of the land because they never were listed among the ones that did that. They were invaders. That's what Philistine means, who came into the land of Israel. Today, generally speaking, the Philistines are down there in Gaza Strip, and the Canaanites are the ones over in the West Bank. The sins of the Canaanites. Now they shall lay their hands on Moab and Edom. I mentioned these, they're going to obey. Notice they're going to obey them. They're going to bring them into submission. Well, they got mentioned here before. He's going to fight. He's going to fight them, and get rid of the troublemakers. So they're going to be possessed. They're going to possess them, but they're not going to possess their land, as I said. And that becomes real plain right here. Therefore, as I live, says the Lord, in Zephaniah 2 verses 9 through 11, we read the following. Therefore, as I live, says the Lord, the God of Israel, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah, as the breeding of nettles in salt pits and perpetual desolation. And the resident of my people shall spoil them, and the remnant of my people shall possess them. And they shall have for their pride, because they've reproached and magnified themselves against the Lord, the people of the Lord of hosts. Lord will be terrible unto them, for he'll famish all the gods of the earth, and men will worship him, everyone from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. And again, when you see the word heathen, it's Gentiles. Goyim in Hebrew, ethnos in Greek, ethnic groups, okay? Nations, also translated nations, same word, Gentiles. All right, notice all of them are going to do this. But notice, let's just start at the top here. He's going to make that land of Moab and Ammon like Sodom and Gomorrah, and we saw before when we looked at there that we saw a few lessons back that as the land of Assyria and Babylon did to Israel, the Lord's going to have Israel do to Babylon, Assyria, and Babylon. Well, the same thing's happening here, and Assyria is going to be treated differently. Babylon's it's just the whole land, it says, becomes marshy and whatever. It's not true today, and the buildings are still standing. The processional way is there. Saddam Hussein rebuilt the walls, but none of that's going to be there at all. Okay, there's going to be nothing. Not just the whole land of Babylon. It's going to be nothing but a wildlife, big wildlife refuge. And the same thing's going to happen here. Nettles are kind of thorny plants. Salt pits, self-explanatory. Where there's salt pits, nothing can live, kind of like the Dead Sea, okay? And just a perpetual desolation. No one's going to live there. So that land's going to be destroyed, but the people, they're going to spoil them. They're going to take their possessions in war. And the ones who surrender are going to become part of those servants we read about. We read about way earlier of the people of God, because the women, And primarily it's the women and children. Okay. The men, all those are military age who fought against them are gonna be wiped off the face of the earth. And they're just gonna end up becoming servants and absorbed into Israel. And I can again show all this. But it's not limited to just them, because they reproached and magnified themselves because of the Lord of hosts. The Lord is going to be terrible to them, and it's a message to the rest of the world. He will do the same to the rest of the world. He's going to famish, he's going to starve to death, literally, all the gods of the earth. People are going to lose all their faith in all these idols. And if you read Revelation, they're still worshiping idols right up to the end. Instead, they're going to worship him. Those who will not worship him and cling to these idols are going to be destroyed. It's like he did with Israel, and those who worship him, but everyone else can worship him. Notice from his own place, even all the isles or lands of the Gentiles. So there's going to be a national place of worship in each of these lands, and there's examples of that in Scripture, particular countries. It doesn't mean Messiah. When it says Messiah sitting his throne there, it doesn't mean he's got. It's more like his embassy, but it's the ideal of a national place of worship, just like the temple in Jerusalem is for Israel. And remember, the only people in Israel in the law who were in the land had to come because they were too far away. They couldn't come. They were exempted. Well, so there's going to be this sort of thing going on around the world also. So idolatry is going to be completely wiped out of the world. Worship anything but him is going to be wiped out of the world. There's going to be a place of worship among them. Local places, just like happened in the days of Messiah, with synagogues, for weekly meetings. National places, perhaps for national holidays, directed by whoever's ruling them, be connected to the Messiah in some regard, and all the world is going to these places of worship. So they're as they roll this out, because they're not going to be able to come to these blessings we talked about without coming in submission to Messiah, and that means keeping the at least the weightier matters of the law, as Messiah called them. The commandments that apply to everyone: not murdering, not stealing, so on, not fornicating, not being involved in drugs, and so on. So all this stuff will keep you out of the kingdom. None of that. Okay, they're going to submit to all this to get the benefits. All right. So if they bless him by submitting to him and curse him by rejecting him, his rule. Now, we go on to Numbers 29, verse 12 through 13, and we start seeing one time a year, there's a connection to all these nations that he's ruling over as he rolls his kingdom out. Again, starts east of the land of Israel, the Middle East, and goes outward from there. And here's what we read in Numbers 29, verses 12 through 13. On the 15th day of the 11th month, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. You shall keep a feast of the Lord 7 days. You shall offer a burnt offering, a sacrifice made by fire unto the Lord, 13 bullocks, 2 rams, 14 rams of the first year. They shall be without blemish. Okay, this is that. Notice the 7 days again, and then we showed last week that's a foreshadowing, a prophetic picture of his reign. Now notice how it starts off, these sacrifices. There's 13 bullocks, prime number there, a little generally a number associated with trouble, strife, and rebellion in the Bible. 2 rams and 14 rams, lambs of the first year. Now, why 2 rams? Jew and Gentile. 14, perfection, peace, etc. Jew and Gentile. Okay. But why 13 bullocks? Well, again, that number is usually associated with trouble, strife, and rebellion. It'll make now. we'll clarify this when we look down here at Numbers 29, verse 32. On the seventh day, 7 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14 lambs of the first year without blemish. Okay, first thing I bring to your attention is there's still 2 rams, still 14 lambs. But notice seven bullocks. Now, 7, as we talked about before, with in connection to Israel, spoke of completion and referred to their complete submission to Messiah and complete peace and prosperity that came as a result of that. Now, this whole countdown starts on the 7th day, so it's going. The first day was 13, then 12, then 11, then 10, then 9, then 8, and then 7. You add those numbers together, you get 70. This is a reference to the Gentile nations. They're associated with the Feast of Tabernacles. They go from rebellion to him all the way down in the end to complete submission to him and the benefits that come from complete submission to him. And Jew and Gentile then, so so they'll be in a similar state to the Jew, so will all the Gentiles. And this is brought out here in Zechariah 14, verse 16 through 19. It shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came around Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the host of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. That shall be whosoever will not come up to the families of the earth in Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. If the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that shall have no rain. There shall be a plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. I'm trying to say, come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay. There's a no-nonsense policy about this. You don't show up, you don't get no rain. Now remember, the Feast of Tabernacles is when the tithing of livestock came in. Okay, and people's general tithes as well. And we've shown this before, like in Malachi, it says the whole nation sinned against God, not just farmers, by not bringing tithes and offerings. No one's to show up empty. And this implies these nations have to bring tithes and offerings to the Lord. Okay, as a nation. And it's the only one of the Moedims where the Gentiles have to show up as well. And if they don't show up, they don't get any rain. It's a serious, no-nonsense tax policy, okay? It is as much about collecting taxes, through tithes and offerings, as anything. But it's also about them coming there and worshiping him and showing their submission to worship the King of the King being Messiah, to worship the King, who's also the Lord of hosts, Messiah. Okay, and they got to live in booths, and this again makes them in that sense equal with Israel. Israel also has to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And a yearly reminder, everything they got is from God. A little bit, kind of an annual humbling by submitting yourself to living in a tent or whatever, for this week. So it's not just Jerusalem, which is why Jerusalem's so large. That map I showed you, I didn't really have the dimensions, but it's huge. Okay, the temple area is huge. The Temple Mount in Messiah's day, the kingdom of Herod, held over 300,000 people. It was the largest structure on earth where people could accumulate inside the same structure. And I believe in all of history, the largest of Colosseum today, Colosseum in Rome didn't hold near that much. And the largest stadium today was only 110,000 people. This one held over 300,000. So, but it's a little fly speck compared to the temple that's going to be built. This is why it's got to be so large, because not just Israel's coming, there's that court of the Gentiles Messiah talked about, that he got from the prophets. We have house of prayer to all nations. Well, there got to be room to fit people from all nations there, okay? So they at least are going to send representatives, if not every person from those nations. Okay, so to bring this tribute from the nation. Now we're going to look at how that's once that's rowed out. We've seen that the army of Israel, future army of Israel in action some again in the land right around there. But those are dealing mostly with people who had historically gave them problems continually over and over again. But now we're going to Deuteronomy 7, 20 through 24, and we're going to see the general strategy that Messiah is going to use. Because remember, he does everything according to the Torah, what's written in the Torah, the commandments of it. And this is the strategy that was given, that Joshua had intended to use and told Israel to use, but they wouldn't do it. And rebelled as soon as he died from it. And even before then, they were making compromises. All right, now let's look at this. Moreover, the Lord will send the hornet among them until they are left and hide themselves from you, be destroyed. You shall not be frightened at them. The Lord your God is among you, a mighty God and terrible. And the Lord will put out those nations before you, little by little. You may not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon you. And the Lord your God shall deliver to you and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction, till they be destroyed. And he shall deliver their kings into your hand. And you shall destroy their name from under heaven. And there shall no man be able to stand before you till you have destroyed them. Okay, instructions for the army of Israel and the people of Israel. Now remember, the plan little by little is the key phrase here. All right, first he's going to send a hornet among them, and that's like that word he spoke. And one of the prophets said it's like a sword that goes through all the world. All them people hiding themselves like in Cheyenne Mountain, or if they built some sort of underground city or whatever it doesn't matter. It's going to find them and kill them. The ringleaders who started everyone else do it are not going to get away. Well, so will it be. And so the hornet was like that. The hornet, God would send it, and those who were trying to hide on the land so they could attack later, instead of leaving the land, the hornets would get in there and destroy them. Well, Messiah's word will get there too. Once the place goes, if they fight against him, or say that there's ringleaders leading the people to fight against him, they're off trying to hide away somewhere. They're not getting away. Okay, so you're not to be frightened of them. Now he's going to fight. He's going to go before. Remember, he was that Melech Adonai, was Messiah, who did all the heavy lifting until he departed, because they wouldn't follow this plan. And the plan was, there's no beast of the field to increase upon them here, but the plan, nonetheless, is not to take on too much, not to take on. So what you're going to do, the plan was to sit there, take an area, occupy it, not just occupy it, I'm sorry, possess it, live. You take a city, now you populate that city and that farmland around it, establish it, settle it. That's the word I'm looking for. Settle it. And next generation repeats process, okay? Takes another part, goes, and you just keep growing and growing. And I think a picture here would be, a map here would probably be helpful also. And in Joshua's day, he'd kind of take a little strip going this way, and kind of going that way, kind of L shape. And the goal was just keep growing that, is down here, I guess. Keep growing that, pushing upward, pushing this way and westward and northward, and then and southward until they either all left the land or were all destroyed, generation after generation. But the thing was to settle it so that they could not take it back. So it was a slow growth process, little by little, over multiple generations. Joshua, after 7 years of war, said there's much land left, but they were supposed to occupy it, and they did not do so. But under Messiah, they'll do this. So this is the pattern now they're going to have. And notice the ones who resist. And remember, these kings could have left. These are the resistors. Okay, you're he will deliver them into your hands, and they were supposed to execute these kings and hang them and destroy their name from under heaven. No one's going to remember these kings. Nobody's going to be following them anymore. And no one's going to be able to stand their way till they've completed this destruction. This is the pattern of rolling out the kingdom. That was supposed to start in the promised land that Israel never completed, but will under Messiah, and then not in that same pattern will continue as he rolls out beyond the promised land. Which brings us to Deuteronomy 20, verses 10 through 15 for instructions of rolling out the kingdom beyond the promised land. When you come into a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace to it. And it shall be, if it make you an answer peace and open to you, it shall be that all the people are found therein shall be tributaries unto you, and they shall serve you. It will make no peace with you, but will make war against you, then you shall siege it. And when the Lord your God is delivered into your hands, you will smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. But the women and the little ones, and the cattle, and all is in the city, and the spoil of it, you shall take to yourself. You shall eat the spoil of your enemies, which the Lord your God has given you. Thus you shall do to all the cities which were very far off from you, which are not of the cities of these nations nations being the Canaanite nations. This is what's outside of Israel. And we've already seen this kind of with Moab and stuff, and it was specified. These enemies, there it is spelled out for us. The male, notice the little ones. It could just sit, the little ones would be male, young boys as well. Okay, every male referring to the military age one with the edge of the sword, not the little ones. But now they're going to become. Now they're going to be brought. They're going to be like. Remember, King James means livestock. Okay, and all the wealth of the city is going to be there, and now that's going to feed the army. Okay. That's the curse for those who curse him. When he offers his peace, if they reject it, they're cursed. If they accept it, they're blessed. They're going to get to keep all this, but accepting it means coming in submission to him. They're going to live by his rules from now on. They're going to serve you. They got to live by they got to live by those weightier matters of the law. And it means, and notice they're also going to pay. They're going to pay tithes and offerings to you. Now that's going to finance the army. Now, historically, what's happened is when countries have a war, particularly a big war, they accumulate a lot of debt. Like here in America for World War II, because costliest war in world history, and most costly for American history, for Americans particularly. And why they do that? They sell war bonds, which were debt to their own people. They had to sell them and so on and so forth to raise money for it. Well, that's not how Messiah's going to roll. He's got 1,000 years to accomplish what he's got to accomplish, and he's going to do it little by little. So what? So the cities are blessed, and remember when they come to under submission to him, they're going to get all the same benefits Israel got when they came to submission to him. So they're going to have money to give to him year after year. That's going to help fund the army as he continues to roll out. Similar to that pattern of settle the land, and then go out and get more. Okay. Those who don't are going to fund by supplying labor labor to take care of things, so the army doesn't have to mess with things. I mean, today, our armies have to do, people in the army, they got all kinds of jobs they have to do. But these guys are able to focus pretty much on just the warfare aspect of the army. They're going to have all these people doing the support rows. Okay, these people are becoming slaves, and of course, some of these women are going to be able to marry, are going to be married in. We know from the Torah, and so on and so forth. They'll bring their families into the family of Israel, but they're going to be absorbed in eventually. But it's going to give the labor to take care of those type of things, so they can focus on this aspect of their mission besides being priests and kings. Well, priests who intercede, the ones who make peace are going to be like priests to them, interceders between them and God, and kings being destroying the ones who don't. So he's going to roll this out by little, and notice how long this whole process takes. How long this is going to go on. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 24 through 25. Then comes the end, we shall deliver up the kingdom of God, even the Father, when he shall put down all rule, all authority and power. For he must reign till he puts all enemies under his feet. Okay, that 1,000-year reign, most of it's going to be spent on this long rollout, on this long, slow rollout. But this rollout accumulates no debt, and also supplies for the beautification of Jerusalem and Israel, in the temple, and so on and so forth. Okay, till it reaches that maximum size told about in the 8 chapters of Ezekiel, where it describes the temple during the reign of Messiah. Okay, so he's gonna just keep building this thing out. He's gonna keep in this reign. He's got to reign over this earth until all of them are put on his feet. The whole process takes 1,000 years. He's declared King of Kings, and it says the nation of this become the kings of our God. The kings of this world become the king of our God. He's declared king, as we've seen before with Israel. He's declared king of Israel in heaven way before he becomes king of Israel on the earth. Same thing here. He's declared king of those nations in heaven, but this slow rollout is going to continue, building no debt. Bring it, and part of the point of the slow rollout is those people he brings in under him have to learn to walk in God's ways as well. So there's stability in his kingdom before he expands his kingdom. It will expand till he reaches the whole world, and it's going to take most of 1,000 years, perhaps ending with the last party expanded, learning how to walk in all of God's ways, and perhaps really learning that thoroughly may take, say, 20 years. It's probably not necessarily. They'll probably go through some cycles. The way a lot of people are learning, they can't just learn one time. They got to go through it several times to get it, till it becomes just second nature. And so that's why it's going to take 1,000 years. And that it shows that rollout is very slow, but it's purposeful. It's continual. It doesn't change. And everywhere on earth, and these places that they can come under him, as we saw with Sierra being an example, are left as destroyed, left as destruction. They're left in this destroyed state. The area around them, like a wildlife reserve, and perhaps whole countries besides those mentioned will end up with the whole nations that way, just kind of a deserty waste area. But certainly these cities that rebel against him, that will not submit to him, are left that as a marker to everyone else. So when he's rolling out into the U.S., say he starts in New York, and say New York says, okay, we'll take your deal, and start paying tribute. Moves eastward, gets to Chicago. Nope, they're going to fight him. No one's telling them what to do. Blah blah blah. They're tough, they're Mr. Tough guys here. They're totally destroyed, left to ruinous heap. Moves eastward, Minneapolis. Minneapolis looks over at Chicago and says, they were stronger than us. He just totally demolished them. We'll take your deal. Okay, that's part of the reason why I leave them as ruinous heaps. So we're Now we're going to look at the end result of all this. This rollout continues. What the effect of it is going to be on the Gentiles. Remember the words of Shaul, the Apostle Paul, was when Israel turned to God completely, it would be life from the dead for the Gentiles, for the world. Now here's what we read in 1 Samuel 2, verses 9 through 10. The words of Hannah, speaking again by the Spirit of God, obviously, when Samuel. He will keep his feet, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength shall no man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and shall give his strength to his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. Okay, he's going to keep the feet of the saints. He's going to protect them. But the wicked are silent in darkness. That's mostly a reference to being dead, okay? The darkness of the tomb, okay? The second death in particular, we'll look at that. We'll look at that in the future lesson. I guess our next lesson about the eternal Lamb. No one's going to be able to prevail. No one's going to be strong to prevail against him. All of his adversaries are going to be broken to pieces. Out of heaven he shall thunder upon them. And later, the days of Samuel, the Lord killed one of the adversaries of Israel by thundering on him. And thunder, a strong enough sound wave can actually kill someone. They had weapons. The military had weapons back in the late 90s to early 2000s. They proved to be too expensive, but they could flatten an SUV like someone stepping on an aluminum can with just sound waves. Okay, so that thunder may not need the lightning to kill them. You may just a concussion grenade worked on the same principle. It really wasn't the fragments that kill people. Usually, it was just the crushing air pressure. Again, flatten them like breaking their ribs and bones and everything else, and just squishing them like someone stepping on a bug that killed them. So that's was just, again, sound waves and the air pressure. So there's going to have that aspect of, again, we saw the Melech Adonai doing the heavy lifting. He's going to give strength to his king, Messiah, and exalt the horn of his anointed. And there it is. That word literally is Mashiach, is Messiah. Okay, anointed. Mashiach means Messiah. Means anointed. Okay, he's going to give strength to his king and exalt, and he's going to lift up that, and he lift it up till he's ruling over the whole world, as we saw. He's going to just keep becoming greater and greater and greater. He's not going to blunder like other men had, who that was statement about them. They did something stupid. He ain't going to do anything stupid. He's going to follow the ways of the law completely all the time. And knowing the commandments of the Torah make you wise. And it's doing them that gives you understanding. And again, that's part of what needs to happen with the Gentiles. They're brought in. They get rid of all this foolishness of them. It's allowed. It's winked at right now among believers. Halloween and whatever's all be gone. Now, in Psalms 47, verse 2 through 9, read the following about this king being exalted. For the Lord Most High is terrible. He is a great king over all the earth. He shall subdue all people under us and the nations under our feet. He shall choose our inheritance for us, the excellency of Jacob, whom he loved, Selah. God has gone up with a shout, Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing ye praises with understanding. God reigns over the heathen. God sits upon the throne of his holiness. The prince of the people are gathered together, even the people of God, the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong unto God. He is greatly exalted. Okay, he's most terrible to fight against. But I tell him, I'm afraid to go against God, but I'm not afraid to go to him for my needs. I am afraid to go rebel against him. The fear of the Lord's wisdom. It's the beginning of wisdom. He's a great king over, notice, all the earth. He can subdue all the people, all the nations, the Gentiles, under our feet, under Israel. He's the one who's going to make it happen. It's not because he's going to be there so clever or whatever. He's going to, if they have wisdom like that, it'll come from him. Okay. He's going to choose our inheritance for us. And he's going to know with everyone. He's going to tell them, this is yours, this is where you live, this is where you're going to stay living. He's gone with a shout, the sound of the trumpet, praises. Everyone's gone with a shout. Everyone's going to know the sound of a trumpet, alarm, getting everyone's attention, because he's king of all the earth. Now notice, sing you praises with understanding. Understanding comes from, again, keeping the commandments of God. Notice he reigns over the heathen, over the Gentiles. He sits on the throne of his holiness. He's in Zion, sitting on the throne of his holiness, but he's reigning over the Gentiles. The prince of the people, that means people of Israel, the people of Abraham and God, are gathered together. Like those 24 elders, this would be the 12 apostles, we know, from Jesus saying, make with each rule a tribe of Israel. They're going to be gathered together, sitting there, in his presence. And of course, ruling, but sometimes coming in there. But the shields of the earth belong to him. He is greatly exalted. The shields, the defense of the earth. And they belong to him. No one else has to defend it. Defense belongs to him. Meaning you won't need your own army. We won't need any kind of defense department because it belonged to him, and he'll be responsible for keeping everyone protected as his kingdom rose out. So as these people grow, as these people come into his kingdom, like say the people of Gibeah did, and the nations around them got mad and started to attack Gibeah, and Gibeah went to Joshua, and they were protected by Joshua. So Messiah is going to do for every kingdom that agrees to him, takes the covenant of peace and agrees to it. Now, we finish with this here in Micah 4, verse 1 through 4. But in the last days shall come to pass, the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains. And it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. And many nations shall come and say, arise, let's go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the Lord God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations so far off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against the nation, neither shall they learn war any more. But every man shall sit under his vine, under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken it. There's a lot here. I'm trying to overdo it here, but the house, notice the top of the mountains was referring to the mountains of Israel and the hills of Israel specifically, was to be the highest place in Israel. Now, whether it's physically the highest in the world or not, maybe the mountains are going to fall, we're told, during the tribulation. Everest may not, be there anymore at all, but it'll definitely be the highest in that area there. And the whole, and we didn't show it this year, but the entire topography around Jerusalem changes significantly when he touches on the ground. Big plateaus formed, a huge plateau, so on and so forth. Okay, and and there's this mountain on here, and it's the highest one on there. And notice to the mountain of the Lord, where Zion is. Okay, where he's ruling, in the house of the God, where the temple is. And that's why he's going to teach us his ways. All right, he's going to teach Israel first, then as he rolls out the Gentiles as well. We're going to walk in his paths. The law is going to go forth out of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. First, yes, to Israel, but notice, not just Israel. He'll judge many people. It's going to go all these other nations. rebuke strong nations afar off. Another place tells us strong nations will no longer be able to, oppress weaker nations. Just the way it is. Some ethnic groups end up with more people or stronger or whatever, for whatever reasons. And they've oppressed them in the past, and they ain't going to be able to do that. Notice everyone that comes into peace in them has to disarm completely. There's no opportunity for them to bring up an armed rebellion against him later. And they won't need those things to defend themselves because the Lord will be their defense. He's going to guarantee their defense, and his guarantee will be good. And they're going to turn all their farming implements, all their war machinery into farming machinery. Their land is going to become fertile like Israel. They're going to be out there using that instead of fighting, and they ain't going to learn how to fight. And notice the end result of all this. Everyone, this means on earth, on these nations, are going to sit under his vine and his fig tree. Everyone's going to enjoy peace and prosperity. And whatever they grow themselves, they got to pay tribute, and the rest they get to keep. And they're going to have good crops all the time, just like Israel. It's going to roll out from Israel till the whole earth is covered. None's going to make them afraid, because no one else can. And when he covers the whole earth, no one's going to have the ability to wage war. And you can be certain of this because the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. And we can be certain that we can have peace with God today as well. Right now, it will come to him in total surrender, because the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken it. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait to have peace with God, and a peace that passes understanding. We have peace in all kinds of terrible circumstances down here on earth, and we're just at peace. That doesn't make sense to anyone else. We have to wait for the Messiah to reign and roll out this rule that covers the whole earth. You can have it today. Just accept his covenant of peace, the gospel. So come to Messiah in total surrender. You just can't call him. If you call him Lord and don't do what he says, Messiah says you're a fool, like the man who built his house on the sand. Say it and mean it, because you believe God raised from the dead, and you'll be saved, and you'll have that peace. And you think the world would be all happy at the end of this 1,000 years, but we'll see in our last lesson about the eternal Lamb in this series. Sadly, not the truth. Will never be happy with living under God's rules, no matter how great the benefits are. Until then, we'll look at that next lesson. Until then, shalom.